Good evening. Welcome to the 5-8, where we discuss each of the week's 5 most fucked up topics for 8 minutes. 5 topics, 8 minutes, 2 hosts, a guest, some singing, a lot of curse words, and as many cocktails as we deem necessary. LB, how are you?
I'm good. I'm having tea. I contemplated a very strong drink after
Okay.
that show of
The brouhaha.
trying to find my words for what I watched. As unsurprising as everything is, it still gobsmacks me. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's
Yeah.
interesting. The Oscars are coming up.
Yeah.
And I think it's a tie. There's 2 more nominees now for Best Supporting Actor for their role as insufferable Dick. It's J.D. Vance and Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're going to cancel each other out with voting.
Yeah.
Unless Elon Musk is in charge of counting the ballots, then I think they're going to have 2 supporting actor things. They're going to tie.
Yeah, 2 supporting. Well, one leading sycophant. I'd never seen a sycophant tee anything up quite as sort of like expertly as JD Vance teed that. He knew, he was like, I'm going to serve up the attack, and the attack is you're not kissing this man's ass enough. And the whole thing went to hell in a handbasket. And we're talking about the Zelenskyy in the White House with Trump and JD Vance. And I don't know, just if when this show, people find this show years later, just look up February 28th, 2025. And you'll see what just occurred.
Yeah. Pretty shocking stuff. I mean, we'll talk about it throughout the show. I think
Yes.
It kind of weaves into a lot of the things that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
The other thing I just want to point out, I woke up, I guess, yesterday morning too. I've lost all track of time. And I found out, that Andrew Tate and his brother Tristan Tate are on a plane to the United States. And I have the same thought that 200 million other people have, like, come on, airplane, do your thing,
Yeah.
And it did not. It did not do its thing. But then I was thinking about it, and what Trump did? He's bringing in the criminals. He's bringing in the rapists. It's coming full circle back to the first thing that he said. That's what he's doing.
It sure is.
Because there's not enough in the United States, apparently.
Yeah.
Or in Florida, and that's where they are. So anyway.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it. I want to get into it. We don't want to keep our guest waiting.
I want to get to our guest. And I know you have some things to say right off the top. So I'm putting the 8 minutes on, and let's hear what you've got to share with us of Self-Destroyer.
Yeah, Self-Destroyer. I talked about this on Prevail a little bit, but I want to talk about it more because I think it's important. We have been talking about, you and I, Trump and Russia for a long, long time now, and taking a lot of fucking shit for it. And, look, the guy's a Kremlin asset. He just is. And I think the sooner that everybody out there, all the muggles, kind of clue into this, the better. Look, there's this guy, Alexander Dugin, excuse me. I got Tate and Dugin mixed up.
Oh, God.
Okay. And he wrote this. This is in this book about geopolitics that Putin has read a bunch of times and likes. He writes, it's especially important to bring geopolitical turmoil into the U.S. domestic reality by encouraging all kinds of separatism, various ethnic, social, and racial conflicts, actively supporting all dissident movements of extremist, racist, and sectarian groups that destabilize internal political processes in the U.S. At the same time, it makes sense to support isolationist tendencies in U.S. politics, the theses of those often right-wing Republican circles that believe the U.S. should confine itself to its domestic problems. This is what, and it goes on, and again, I'm not the first person to bring this guy up. People have been talking about him for years.
This is from, was this
1997?
1997. Okay.
Zarina Zabrisky's talked about it. Jim Stewart's talked about it. Gal Suburban's talked about it. Lots of people have discussed this.
Yeah.
Russia thinks of us as the enemy, and what they want to do is take us out. Okay. So they've installed Trump for the second time now in the White House, and he was unable to destroy shit last time sufficiently. Now, if you were going to do that, having a second shot at it, and you know that this idiot can't do it, what would you do? You take a guy who's really good at destroying things, who's really good at organizing the detonation of the country, and you give him super duper powers to do whatever the fuck he wants and make him in charge of everything, and then turn him loose so he can, quote, put the country through a wood chipper. That's what you would do. Okay. Now, in a movie, this would be some rando. The person that they've chosen happens to be a very famous rich guy who is also a weirdo and has all this stuff. But that's what Elon Musk is right now. And I think that's the way that everybody needs to look at him. He has the skill set to destroy the country. And he goes in there in the first cabinet meeting wearing a baseball cap and a t-shirt. And all of those people sat there on their keisters. Not one of them had the heart to stand up and say to him, "Why are you dressed like this?" Which, Marjorie Taylor Greene's fuck buddy said it to Zelenskyy today in the Oval Office, but God forbid anybody should say it to Elon, because he owns them all. They all in there wanting to be oligarchs, and that's that. Now, again, destroyer. Look at everything that's happening and everything that they're doing. All the papers are like, well, I don't know. There's this austerity budget that everybody's trying to pass, right? It's working its way through the House.
Mm.
That exists to hurt people and destroy the economy. That's the only reason it exists. Also to help them tax cuts, but mostly it's to ruin the economy. We have a measles epidemic in Texas. Measles, a disease that was eradicated 100 fucking years ago because RFK's brainworm thought it was a good idea, because RFK's brainworm is a Russian-speaking brainworm, okay? We have Tulsi Gabbard making up bullshit excuses to fire people en masse at the NSA, the largest agency that we have that keeps us all safe. We have Pete Hegseth, who's this OnlyFans guy, just telling Cyber Command, hey, when it comes to Russia, just stand down. Just let them do whatever they want to our internal systems. And then you have J.D. Vance in Munich pissing off all the Europeans. Isolationists, like Dugan said. Add that all up, and what do you have? What do you have? You have people in there trying to destroy the United States from within. That's what's happening right now. And everybody, I know people watching this understand this, but everybody else needs to get it, and they need to get it quickly, because what happens when assets run the country is the fucking clown show that we saw in the Oval Office today. That's what happens. This is what it looks like when a Kremlin asset is running the fucking country. So that's what I have to say.
And obviously I concur with all of that. Even if there's someone who can't quite go there with the litany of evidence, you wrote a great piece just putting all the facts down of like, this is 40 years of evidence on this man, and also former Soviet intelligence era people coming out and saying, oh yeah, we recruited him. Like people going on the record being right up front about it all, and and there's still folks that can't quite grasp what this whole thing is. So that's fine. Let's just go with the incompetent toddler, the angry bully, childish man, whatever, which everyone, even in his supporters group, they're sort of like, oh yeah, he's like, talk about him like he's a toddler. Well, what do, petulant toddlers do when you present them with something complicated that they can't handle? They just smash it and throw it, or they're not winning the game, and the game goes on the floor and they have a tantrum. They just tantrum out. They still destroy everything. So it's still like a lack of understanding, or a real understanding and a malevolent will, right, to destroy everything. It's still being destroyed. We still need to deal with the fact that it's being destroyed, and it's being destroyed by a person who has absolutely zero authority to do it. He's sort of the front man leading this charge, leading the cabinet meetings, the first cabinet meeting. It's just pathetic. So, the next segment, I really wanted to get into, it's not just sort of like, there's a question going around. Look at how much time we have. Oh yeah, just 1 minute left. So we'll roll right into it. There's a question going around of, in the discourse. So I'm seeing it on social media a lot, but really, really seeing it on whatever's left of the legacy media and the broadcast media, of people saying, are people waking up? They keep asking that. Are people getting it now? Maybe they're waking up because we're watching things like maybe Medicaid is going to go and get the axe, right? It's written into this budget structure. And this sort of, and the farmers seem to be very upset. I talked about that last week. And you've got, veterans are going to lose all their shit. And it's like this sort of wish of like, maybe MAGA is going to wake up finally, or the people who voted for him that maybe were just not, the low information voters and that are still low information that are voting for him. And this sort of wish fulfillment that people are somehow getting it. So there's a lot of that filtering in through the discourse right now of this wish of that they'll wake up. And I guess what I would like to do is to lead the discussion or be part of a discussion of separating and uncollapsing our idea of what the waking up and the kind of just sort of waking up that's probably going to happen and that we can lean into and push on. So our idea of oh my God, are people getting it yet? Is that somehow either family members that you've lost to MAGA or, coworkers or neighbors or friends or whatever it is, that's the whole thing we went through of like, oh my God, I can't believe this moral divide, right? That somehow folks that we loved or cared about at one point, or people that we need in our community are going to somehow morally wake up. And because all of a sudden their lives are being affected and the stuff that they're expect and rely on, like their Social Security. And I'm telling you, in Russia, the pensions went. I don't think they're not going to figure out a way to come for people's pensions. That somehow rocks people into a moral awakening. And I just want to, maybe we need to uncollapse that, because that dream is never coming true. I do not, at least the hardened MAGA radicalized core, they were radicalized into this cult of Trump because in there, we just couldn't see it. In there was real hatred, real bigotry, real misogyny, just a total lack of caring and a complete warped understanding of what America is, and a real desire to get rid of brown people, right? And then just have it be a white nation, a real desire for that. And a real desire to, instead of looking at the complex issues that a nation faces and maybe things in their own personal lives that they would like to be a little bit better, it just people with a disposition that want a scapegoat. And the scapegoats that they want, they're not going to give that up. That's just there. Okay. So understanding that that's there, what is this waking up that everybody's buzzing about and talking about as we watch more of America be destroyed, right? And more things, and horrible displays like what we all watched there's a TV behind there, that's why I'm gesturing to it, what we all watched happen in the Oval Office. And just this distaste and, oh God, people may be forgetting that he was just this horrible cunt, right? So what is that? And how can we lean into that? Well, it's going to be, wait a minute, you're hurting me, not the people I wanted you to hurt. That's going to start. That's the start. And we're seeing it with certain groups. And I don't know that you embrace those folks if you know them, but I certainly think engaging in conversations like, yeah, and not I told you so conversations, but just really like it sucks, right? Yeah. I mean, there's stuff I care about that, and that's also, going, and it's really going to hurt all of us. And we've got to figure out how to get rid of him. And it really matters who's president, because they really can do this destructive shit. So those are conversations you can begin to have as people, and just sort of affirming what their loss is and that it is a big loss and that it is terrible. The other thing that's going on is that I would love for everybody to get aware of is I think we need to also find and lean into and even weaponize, because it's been done to America by foreign adversaries and by domestic as well, the fractures of that group. When we start to see fractures happening in MAGA land, I think we got to press on it pretty hard, and just break that apart, like what Dugan was explaining in your first thing of how Russia can come in and break us apart and find our fractures. And there's a massive fracture going on right now in MAGA land, that this whole this whole show today that Trump and Vance put on is a temporary. I'm not saying they didn't mean all that. It's horrible. It's also serving, as everything serves for them, 2 or 3 purposes. And understand, there's a panic going on right now. MAGA was promised that on day 1, the Epstein files, whatever that means, were going to be released, right? So all of the troves of information about Jeffrey Epstein and the list, right, of everybody, like as if he, there's
as if we don't already know, as if we haven't already seen the list.
But there was a lot redacted. The stuff that actually made it out came out through FOIAs, or it's been in the public domain. And so if you're not, because none of these folks, none of us are MAGA people, but trust me, those hardcore MAGA folks that were QAnon and everything, they were promised this, and in their channels, in their communication channels, and on Truth Social, and in the Reddit forums, and all that kind of stuff that they still have, they have been promised by Trump, promised by Don Jr., promised by all the social media influencers that are all up in the, making all their money on this, that on day 1, these files are going to be released. Well, it didn't happen. And then Pam Bondi said she was going to do it. I guess yesterday was the day it was going to be this, or by today. And what happened was she handed out binders. They invited yesterday all of these social media, the Trump social media influencers that the basically Nazi whisperers and all that. Invited these people, like, think Cat Turd. I don't know if he was there, but that kind of thing. And they were all given binders.
Ooh,
binders with the Epstein files, right? And all it was, and they came out saying, oh, we've got it. We've got the binders. And none of them really showed it. And then finally, now we're finding out what's in these binders is all the publicly available, not all, just a fraction of the publicly available information. There's nothing new, right? And the fact that Trump and Pam Bondi thought that they could get away with this and that would somehow satiate tells you they also are not quite aware of how deep into that Epstein rabbit hole, right? How much time and energy looking at every single piece of information that they can get their hands on that their MAGA crew have had about Jeffrey Epstein, and all of their fantasies about who really killed him and who's really the la 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 la. They have a whole thing, and that whole thing that they've created, right? And the real stuff they've seen the pictures of Donald Trump. They have answers for every reason Donald Trump is all over Jeffrey Epstein. They've got excuses away. It's not that they haven't seen those images or they didn't know about the fight over the Palm Beach property. That they didn't know Virginia Giuffre was, the girls were recruited out of Mar-a-Lago. They know all those things. They just have their own explanations for it all that gives Donald Trump innocence, but also elevated him to be the guy, because he knew, and he was working with the FBI and he was helping take down Epstein, to be the guy that's going to be the one that actually tells him all this. And it's so important to so many of these people because they've isolated themselves from family and friends and coworkers and their communities, and put flags all over it, and even went and did, some of them went and did an insurrection right around this whole thing. It's their whole world. It really is. And they've embarrassed themselves if it falls flat, if they don't have this thing that they can produce to finally say, see, I did my research and I knew I was right. And I told you Hillary Clinton did backflips in her jumpsuit and went into the jail cell and strangled him to death. And that's what really happened. And it's all covered up by George Soros. And, and they're drinking the blood of children. Like, they have a whole thing that's their myth and their fantasy tied to this. And they know when they're given a binder, or their influencer combined with 200 pages, and it's all shit they've seen 1,000 times before. They know they're being duped. And let me tell you, they're pissed. They are pissed off about this. So I don't know whether something, I just want to keep our eyes on it. I don't know whether something's going to be cooked or concocted up by Pam Bondi to and by the way, she was there, district attorney or attorney general, whatever, of Florida from 2008 all the way through, right, while Epstein was, running around before they grabbed him again. So they had a lot of hope on her and saw that her appointment by Trump was all about delivering this thing. So now there's a distraction, but I think we can all, if everybody wants to do their part, on the social medias, just lean into that fracture. Lean into that fracture. They're talking about how they're being betrayed. And this is the awakening that's going to help. It's not an awakening of a moral awakening to actually have these people be caring, truly patriotic and understanding America and pro-democracy. It's going to be, yeah, you got conned.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
So just want to, I know that's off the top. It seems like it's a little thing. It's not a little thing.
No, it's all over Twitter.
Yeah.
If you go on there, it was all over it for days.
It was all over until the Zelenskyy thing, and now there is no other trend. And Elon got in there, and somebody got in there and made all the trending topics about World War III now.
Right. Trump said World War III.
Yeah, because he said that. Yeah.
So real quick, I already put this on the on our little short, but I want to put it here now, and then we'll get to our guest in a minute.
Yeah.
One of these idiot congressmen has a bill in place to put Donald Trump's mug on a $250 bill.
Yeah,
which you may have seen. And I thought, as you know, I work in a my day job involves coins and banknotes. I was like,
yeah,
250. That's a Russian bill, right?
Right. You immediately knew that.
I was like, that's a denomination used in Moscow. And I thought that, and then I thought, wait a minute. Is that the bill that I think it is? And I went to work and I looked, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, yeah, it is. If you look at the eagle very closely as I come in, what do you see behind the eagle? Mm-hmm. Look at that. It's a fucking swastika on a 250 ruble note. So there's no way they don't know.
No, this is the thing. It's just like MAGA. This is their whole thing. We might not be tuned into it, but they are. Nazis, they know every single place that their symbol has made it into, it's stamped on currency. You don't think they know that? They know. They collect this shit. They know. They know. This isn't a coincidence. It's not accidental.
They know.
Don't be gaslit about that.
Don't be gaslit.
Yeah. This is their whole world.
So we have another sponsor, I'm pleased to say.
Oh my God, we got a sponsor. Yeah, now, we're not supposed to be accepting any money. Remember, everybody, it's February 28th.
Right. Yeah.
Right. But this sponsor isn't paying us.
Yeah. It's a freebie.
He's trying to get money from us. He's not paying us. Exactly. It's the opposite.
When the evening becomes the night, when the springboks roam the burned veldt, this is when the Doge come out to play, to flaunt the fruits of their triumph. Chainsaws, Ashley St. Clair's eggs, sinks, introducing a new fragrance for Doge men. Dicks by Elon. Take what you want. Twitter, Donald, every last penny of Mima's social security. Dicks by Elon. Not a fragrance, a musk. Available exclusively at Temu.
Pretty good. It's a pretty good sponsor, I think. I'm pretty happy.
Sponsor, except I'm not paying him.
Pretty happy about it. The best part of Chunk's amazing animation is that when he gets to the end and he's holding the bottle and it's really small.
Tiny bottle.
It's like a salt and pepper shaker. I love it. I love it so much. Okay. It's time to bring out our guest. She's an actress. She's an author. She's an activist. She's the co-founder of the LA Cafe and Don'tGetPurged.org. She's also our favorite aficionado of fly fishing, Heather Thomas.
Heather Thomas! Welcome.
Cheers, I should say first.
Cheers.
Cheers.
How are you? What are you drinking?
I'm having... Look, I can drink with one hand.
Okay.
Unlike Trump and Marco Rubio. Yeah.
I'm having a blood orange margarita.
Delicious. Very LA of you. Very California. Very fresh. Very citrusy. It's lovely. Well, we're so happy to have you on the 5-8. This is your first time coming on our show. And we're grateful that you're spending time with us.
I love your show.
Yay! Yeah. Everybody, as folks know, and they know you from the socials, they know you maybe from your screen career. They know you, and they know that you are not just an LA person, but a Palisades person, And so talk
I'm
to
a
us
Santa
about
Monica person. but
Santa Monica
I'm a
person.
Santa Monica person.
Yeah.
But I grew up going to the Palisades, and I have until this fire. Yeah.
So how is everything? How are you? I think we just want to start with a check-in of how you're doing.
We're good. Our house is clean. We scrubbed it up. I'm on the edge of Santa Monica Canyon. So, I mean, if you saw my footage of the fire, it would curl your hair.
Yeah.
It
Oh,
would curl
God.
your hair. I was standing out there in the 100-mile-an-hour winds trying to take pictures. And I actually got knocked down twice by the wind.
Yeah.
Oh my
It's
goodness.
fierce. And everybody, you know, I know you probably know people who've lost everything. We all sort of have those folks in our lives who've lost everything.
Oh, at least 100 people.
Yeah. How do you feel like the larger city of Los Angeles, how is everybody doing? Like what do you see? Is it, are we
one of the most generous cities in the country.
Yeah.
The Rose Bowl filled with people giving whatever they had, clothing wise, giving whatever they had, shoes, socks, jackets, outerwear. So much has been donated. We can always use more donations for Altadena in particular.
Yeah.
But the city will rise. We always do.
Oh, that's nice to hear. Yay. Okay. All right. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to watch from afar. It's hard, it's my home for 30 years, and it just it sucks for everybody to try to figure out what to do. To me, Altadena is a community that really will continue to need our help to rebuild. And, those families had that. There's such an important community, and it had those, homes that have been in the families for,
There was
generations.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. It was their generational wealth. So
And
there's a lot of places for folks to donate still. Yeah. Okay. So we want to talk to you about, should we start with the purge?
Well, before we get to the purge, because this is important, but I want to hear, this was
I feel like purging right now.
This was a major news day. Something crazy happened today in the Oval Office.
Okay.
So I want to find out, Heather, you were paying attention to what happened with Trump and Vance and Zelenskyy. What are your thoughts on this? What was take us through what you were thinking when this was happening.
Well, the first thing I noticed was Trump is sunsetting, and he had to have a human Sharpie and JD Vance playing a mean girl. For a guy that hates women, he sure sounds like a mean girl from junior high.
Yeah.
Like Mr. Scoldy Pants. It's like, he's so shrill and creepy. But what I saw was, I think they thought they were going to tag team humiliate him. And he basically turned them into his little bitches. I thought it was fabulous.
I'm glad you saw that.
This man is amazing. He's got the balls of a gunfighter. I was so proud of him.
I watched the clip afterwards, and there was a part where Trump is like, if it weren't for us, you would have lost in 2 weeks. And Zelenskyy just goes, yeah, 3 days. Yeah. We already heard it from Putin.
Yeah, it wasn't Trump. It was Biden.
It was amazing.
Trump. If it weren't for us. Yeah, like JD Vance and Peter Thiel, his girlfriend.
Well, and it was good when JD Vance was going at him, and Zelenskyy came back and said, "Well, have you been there? You haven't been to Ukraine."
Yeah,
so
I read stuff.
Yeah,
jerk off.
It was so good.
And then Zelenskyy kept his appointment. He had a scheduled appearance on Fox News already. He kept it. So he's there. No, I think English is his third language. It's not even his second language.
Oh.
So he's there. He's got his translator kind of off screen. He's looking at the guy, but he was there with Brett Baer, and he just handled it. And he took it on. And of course, the whole thing was like, do you think you owe Donald an apology? Don't you think you should thank him more? Don't you think you need to apologize for him? And he was like, well, I do thank him. I don't, this is the process. I'm a leader. It's my people. I'm and just had to remind again about it all. And he really laid into and ended it on, This is about it. We're two leaders, and our countries are going to have new leaders, and it's going to keep changing leaders. This is about the people of America supporting the people of our Ukraine, and the people of Ukraine believing in and appreciating and also supporting the people in America. So it's really about our people.
All the NAFO charities, give to all of them.
Yeah.
I've been donating my butt off.
Awesome. Thank you, Heather.
So
awesome.
The other kind of big picture question I have, because you've been on Twitter for years and years now. I forget when I started. It was a long time ago, many years at this point. So you've been plugged into all the stuff that's happening, and obviously knew when Trump got elected again and was sworn in, something bad was going to happen. It wasn't going to be great. I'm just curious, how is it different from what you thought? Or is it?
It's not different. I even did I read a chapter of Project 2025 for David Pepper for that clear and present danger. We tried to warn people. We had 3 months to reach the country, and everybody was busy playing Candy Crush or whatever they do, watching Joe Rogan, intellectual. Yeah. So the dumbing down of this country, I've watched it happen over the years. The dumbing down, the short attention spans, the need for the macabre. I blame the writers' strike, and I'm a member of the Writers Guild, and I still blame them for all these reality shows where they got more and more grotesque. And Trump in the presidency is the ultimate grotesque reality show, and people need to be titillated by the internet because they don't know how to get dopamine or something. It was really a sad state of affairs. But okay, the Democrats have a liberal zeitgeist, the pantheon of liberal funders have ceded all media to right wing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And this is our biggest problem. I was involved with Air America very heavily, and even that was subject to hostile takeovers by the next billionaire. We've got to figure out in this country how I'm thinking about getting a ham radio if things keep going this way. Figure out how we're going to get our news, because obviously, in the 70s, they were mad about the exploding Pinto, and all the publicists got together and started attacking network news. And it was corporately bought. So then they all of a sudden, news never used to look at ratings. I'm old enough to remember that. And when the news started going for entertainment, I remember in the 80s, it was all, in the 90s, it was car chases and cops and let's show people getting busted. That we can't absorb something in real life, that we need this constant outrage or horrific stimulation to titillate our cortexes. It's a bad addiction, and Trump provided that. People like Trump, they actually, if you believe what he says, I mean, how naive and adolescent are our people in America that they believe that?
Yeah.
Well, they wanted to vote for ugliness and crassness
and I think there's a lot of undermining of, and has been, Reagan, that era really went after education. So there's been a deliberate attack coming from the right.
Attack on education.
Absolutely.
And couple that with grotesque pollution.
Pollution. And
grotesque is the word of the day. But the pollution also damages your brain. So low education, pollution, corporations have humiliated the worker to the point they just kept taking away from them. They kept taking their pensions, taking their perks, taking their vacations, to the point where people were angry and they didn't know where to focus their anger. And the genius of the Republicans was they had a vast echo chamber saying, focus it here. And people did. And they actually thought that they could blame the Democratic Party. I blame the Democratic Party for crappy messaging. I just think it's disgusting.
Well, but I don't know. But are you aware that Hakeem Jeffries, he has a new nickname for Trump, Captain Chaos. I think that's going to solve all of our problems. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Well, not being able to. We've talked about this before, but it's also it's a combination of not being able to actually help people understand what a democracy is, and just taking it for granted that you don't have to constantly
civics out of the schools,
out of the schools, all of that.
The whole goal has always been of the Heritage Foundation. That's why they wanted to take away choice. The Heritage Foundation, the Federalist Society, all the pantheon of Koch brother entities,
think tanks.
It was always to create a permanent underclass of overburdened, low-wage workers with no choice, with no information, no education, no choice or recourse. And we're hurtling towards that. Wait till the Supreme Court takes away collective bargaining and class action lawsuits. What recourse will you have then?
Yeah.
We're all silent. To
it's
your
silent,
point,
but it's coming. Yeah.
Bringing back the immediately Project 2025 got rid of being able to bargain for Medicare. It's going to screw up Medicaid. It's going to they want you overburdened. They want you to have too many kids because then you won't complain about OSHA. If there is OSHA anymore, I don't know. Did they get rid of that?
I think it's gone. I think that's gone.
I think it's like three dudes in a van, and that's
it. I think
it.
3 dudes in a van, and anyway, we're Russian now, so what does it matter?
We got Crimean.
The crappiest economy in the world. We're supposed to admire, like Orban and Putin and all these guys.
This is a country where you go fill petrol when you can, and people go to the stations there with their multiple vessels to put gas in because they don't always get gas, even though they're an oil producer. And everyone's just hanging out by the gas station, just smoking, hurling their cigarettes hither and
that'll be me.
Yeah. This is what happens there. My boss was there. He was like, I'm not going to go near that thing. That's crazy.
I was supposed to quit smoking. It's a bad week to quit smoking.
Yes.
I think
Heather, always forgiven.
It's great. I feel like, have we smoked on the show? Have I smoked a cigar on the show before? I don't
think you have. You should. If you've got one, light it up.
A cigar. You got one?
I do, but I don't have the cutter. I don't know. My wife gave me that. She'll get the other inhabitants of my house will get mad if I let a cigar.
Oh, okay. Well,
and if I let us, it'll take away from the coolness of Heather smoking.
It's too cool to have.
It's not cool. It's sad.
Oh, for this moment,
I'll quit again.
For this moment, it's a vicarious thing. It's nice, Heather. It's given a good vibe. For this moment, so talk about. I do want to get into the voters and the voting, because you believe that we can show up. There are places to show up and vote, and it will make a difference. And there's some elections coming up this month. We're in March. Are we in March? March is tomorrow.
March is tomorrow, but there are a million elections coming up. A million elections coming up. Vote in every election, please. Now, if I was going to say anything, it all starts locally. You've got to vote on your school board. You've got to vote in your municipal elections, or else your whole city is going to be owned by Wall Street, and you won't. There'll be no ownership. There'll be no sense of place of community. It'll be just transient renters until they get priced out. You should be voting in your state elections. You should be voting in every single election. And you need to really check your registration, because they are purging voter rolls. Elon has the data. They've had the data since the Facebook grab. The Mercer family stole the Facebook data and gave it to the Russians and to the Trump campaign. They know how to micro-target.
Yeah.
And and they probably know how to micro-target who they should purge. So there is wrongful purging going on. Check your voter status all the time and vote. And volunteer to work the polls, because the more of us that work the polls, the more citizens that work the polls, the less they can cheat.
Yeah.
And I really, really hope that all the Democratic secretaries of state figure out a way to harden their tabulators.
Yeah.
Because I will put nothing past these people at this point.
Well, Cyber Command was told to stand down.
Yeah, Cyber Command was told to stand down so they can get at our tabulators.
And remember,
and
just
our water systems and our grid and our nuclear power plants and everything else.
And our Wi-Fi. We're not going to be able to stream Severance. It's going to be a national catastrophe.
And whatever the next new electric vehicle out of DARPA, they need to be hacked and handed over to Elon Musk at 2 a.m.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
But just to bring it back, though, to the Russia stuff, because, again, we've been taking a lot of shit for it. It said the Senate Intelligence Committee, which at the time was chaired, I believe, by Marco Rubio, our current Secretary of State, he signed off on this. Paul Manafort was working with a KGB or FSB guy who specializes in election fuckery and gave him polling data. That's what happened. The chair of the Trump campaign in 2016 gave polling data to an FSB, which is a Russian hostile intelligence service that is a guy that knows how to fuck with elections. But everything's fine.
I know.
It's all good.
It was always Russia. He was always.
Yeah.
He's not an asset at this point. He's an agent.
Yeah.
This is my theory on
Elon.
Elon.
Things that Putin wanted. He wanted to create a race war to divide us. He wants to kill Americans. That's happening. Mm-hmm. He wants to weaken Americans. He wants to destroy our military. We have the most fantastic lethal fighting force in the world. But no, now we're destroying it.
He wants us out of NATO. He wants to poke the eyes out of all of our intelligence agencies.
He wants us poor. And that coincides with what these tech bros, the Yarvin verse they live in, where they want to, everything they've tried, by the way, this is what they have in common with Trump. They tried to make these little cities, little city nations. They all were abject failures. These people have failed at all their little city nations they tried to create. But now they're sitting around like a bunch of nouveau riche 13-year-olds trying to design, I want a world where every woman is like a blow-up doll. I want a world where nobody says bad things about me. I want a world where nobody pantses me at gym. That's what they sound like.
Yeah, the goobers are in control, and it's very dangerous.
It's the lame kids.
Yeah.
It's not the nerds either. It's not the nerds.
No, it's the lame kids, because these people
they don't have talent or brains or anything.
They invested well because they were advised well.
I mean, Musk is like,
you don't go off and pick your stuff by yourself. You have a whole team advising you how to invest. So I think his team is very good.
Yeah.
Thiel's team is good.
Could you imagine living in a city with these people? Like how horrible it would be?
Peter Thiel, why is he always sweaty? The man sweats like
he looks like that,
400-pound guy in a sumo contest,
or like he's one of the Nazis at the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark, whose face is like just about to melt.
Yeah, just about to melt. He's really gross.
Yeah.
Now that you say it, you're right. I've never seen him not sweaty.
Not pasty and wet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all microdosing on something.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even think of a funny drug name right now.
I can't. Well,
maybe that's the next fake ad we do.
Maybe that's the next fake ad. I wanted to go back to, now it went right out of my brain, but I wanted to go back to the purging of the voter rolls, and just, I know our audience is up on all of that, and check your registration, but this really did happen. We knew that do you know how many and where they went? It was in very specific areas and targeted areas, right?
Yep.
Voters were actually purged from the rolls. We didn't get, and I want to tie this to what we would.
I don't have my Greg Palast list, but
okay, great.
I could name a bunch of that stuff.
I want to tie to what we want to talk about next, is that this is, to me, especially in an election year, especially with an election that is as consequential as this one was, and every election from now is and will be, to not have that be front page, above the fold, headline every day. Voters are purged. Voters are purged. Voters are purged. Voters are purged. I just want to connect that, and I thank you for your advocacy on this, and I thank you for your awareness on this, and to keep it aware, keep it in everybody's top of mind, but also to connect it to and kind of move into our next segment, if you'll stick around and talk about this next segment with us, of the fact that we've lost the ability to trust that we're actually going to be informed.
Yeah.
We've lost our information sphere, our reliable information sphere.
In Denmark, they teach critical thinking and critical internet thinking at school age, and they should have done that here, but the powers that be didn't want that.
My kids did take media literacy.
I think this would be a great cottage industry, is to open a whole bunch of critical thinking stations for children.
Oh,
just offer courses in it.
Summer camp.
Critical thinking.
You combine it with something fun for summer camp. Right. Critical thinking.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of room at these cities that they will have abandoned.
Yeah.
There's plenty of room. We could borrow a couple of those failed Yarvanverse cities.
Where are they? Aren't there some wasn't there Texas and New Mexico? Am I wrong?
Yeah. At first they wanted to put them out on the water, but something catastrophic happened when they attempted it. And then they did. They wanted to make these islands.
Floating islands.
Yeah.
Off of Honduras, was it, or something? Now I'm trying to remember.
I wish.
And by they, we mean the tech billionaires and the libertarian kookwats.
Yeah. Hysterical. And they wanted to have their own cities. But if you listen to Yarvin, the guy played way too many video games because he probably had no friends and was this sad little person playing video games all his life. And now he's got this whole philosophy that we should be like a giant network of city states, all ruled by a CEO, and that we should, that the government will be ultimate, power, where the government can cut your hand off. He literally wrote this, where the government can cut your hand off and you can do nothing. They also think that the elderly and the disabled are useless people.
Yeah.
So that's why you're seeing no energy put into taking care of the disabled, no energy being put into, they're getting rid of all of that because they want those people to die. They think they're a drag on the herd.
I'm trying to remember where I heard that before, where people were saying the things about all of the it was the Nazis. Yes.
Yeah, it was the Nazis.
Right. Silly me.
And trans people, right? The first one's in there. Yeah. Whole
Well, they're doing that
playbook.
Trans was just their convenient way of getting all the QAnons to pee all over themselves. You know,
Yeah.
Fine. Oh, I found a child molester. No, look at your church.
Yeah. No, it's
The South has a big problem. These
Yeah.
Southern Baptist churches.
It's all what they do. Okay, so should we go to the next topic?
Yeah, I think we should go take
Here we go.
talk about. We wanted to talk
So-
about what happened with Jeff Bezos and what happened, like what we're actually watching happen to legacy media.
There's a bunch of things that happened this week, so I'm just going to hit them just so we can, and then we'll talk about it. Okay.
Okay, perfect.
First of all, Jeff Bezos says to the Washington Post op-ed, "Yeah, we're only going to have op-eds that I like from now on." That's one, which violates every known.
They did that to the Times. Dr. Pat bought the Times, and now, you heard
the
about
LA Times.
Yeah,
the LA Times, and that person from the editorial board, their name escapes me, said that they literally changed words and changed the headline, the title of his opinion piece, and they edited it so that it was favorable.
So it was the opposite of the opinion.
The opposite of what they meant.
Crazy. Yeah. I did say I read Candace Buckner, who's I think that's her name, who's a sports reporter at the Washington Post, wrote a column today that was overtly political, basically calling on athletes to like do more stuff, and that Chris Klue, the former punter for the Vikings, who's the only athlete that is brave enough to do anything. And so it's interesting how people are doing workarounds. Like, okay, the op-ed page isn't going to be for politics. Yeah. The sports page is now.
We need to do more films and more visual and more music.
Thank you.
Because there's a very famous brain surgeon. He passed away. He was my friend's dad, and I loved him. He was a great guy. Leonard Schlein, who
that's the Alphabet versus the Goddess.
Yeah, and he hypothesized that once a society accrued symbolic language, they would eschew everything feminine from the left side. Feminine side is left, right? Yeah. They would eschew everything from the feminine side because, when they were burning witches, it was not during the Middle Ages. It was during when European was very, very sophisticated, and they had
the Enlightenment. Yeah.
The Enlightenment. Yeah. And they were eating with a knife and a fork, and they were burning witches.
Yeah,
some of that was because the church wanted to take the property of the widows of the Crusades, but a lot of it was just woman hating. And I fear that because we're seeing so much written, that we're going to start doing knee-jerk things, especially men, towards the feminine. You've seen the turn towards rape culture with the Tate brothers.
Yeah.
You've seen the turn towards
with the president, with an adjudicated rapist as the president.
Yeah, we have adjudicated rapists as a president. We have a guy in that little twat in the vice president's office who claims women, whenever he says something derogatory, it's against women, or he feminizes it.
Hegseth, Secretary of Defense.
Yeah. So what we need to do is we need to get a good song, like I Ain't Gonna Play Sun City. We need a good song.
I agree.
Yeah.
Several songs, and we need a lot of film. We need a lot of visuals. Memes are great. Less words, more pictures.
Yeah. No, that book, the thesis of The Alphabet versus the Goddess, which is a great book, by the way. Everyone should go buy to read it. The thesis is that the more, like you said, Heather, the more reliant societies are on written words rather than images, the more masculine / left brain they are, and therefore the more anti-woman. And the more into the images, then the brain's hemispheres start to connect better and everything is more elevated. Like he said, like when we came out of the so-called dark ages, what happened at that time in terms of the gender relations. That was the time of chivalry when you had all these knights willing to do whatever the women wanted, right? But you didn't know it because the writing itself was less. Anyway, it's an interesting book. But I think maybe TikTok is more going by the Schlane stuff better for us.
Text of God,
Yeah.
as they
Probably not what they had in mind, but
and they got rid of all discussion about Mary Magdalene and things like that in the church.
Right.
They had Christianity is the most voted upon, weirdly shaped religion in the world.
This is the last thing I thought we would be talking about tonight.
I know, but I'm loving it. I'm into, yes, we need some anthems. We definitely need.
How about leaders? We need some
leaders. We need to puncture.
We need some leaders.
We have to.
That are there. Well,
yeah.
I think we can wish for that all day with one hand and shit in the other, as a relative might say, and see which fills
we
up
need to
first.
stop thinking about the midterms and think about today.
Oh, I like that line. Yes, exactly.
That's good.
So, okay, quickly, 3 more things that happened media related.
Yes.
MSNBC fired a bunch of people, and by people, I mean black people and women. The White House, Trump basically is now picking people to serve at his convenience, as in the White House press corps, which I guess explains why Marjorie Taylor Greene's fuck buddy was in the Oval Office today.
They've gotten rid of the First Amendment. They're going to break every amendment. They're gonna get rid of the Constitution. It's happening.
Yeah. It's and he's the one that asked the asshole
Supreme
question
Court
about.
is not going to stand up for the.
No, they're not. No, that's gone.
No, they don't.
Yeah,
they don't care. They just need like good wine and
vacation.
Yeah,
and vacation homes and upstate New York.
So Marjorie Taylor Greene's guy asked this question of Zelenskyy: why aren't you wearing a suit? Even though he's not wearing a baseball cap and a T-shirt that says
a toddler
tech support on it, and he doesn't bring a toddler to wipe boogers on the resident desk.
They're also scared of Musk.
Oh my God! But this guy, and then everybody's saying this, and then I looked on Twitter, and Winston Churchill was trending because Winston Churchill went to the White House in like war
uniform,
and it's Winston fucking Churchill. Like they cannot say anything about him. He's a super conservative, kind of racist dick in real life, but boy, did he hate the Nazis and hate the Russians. So, that's all you got.
See my little cow inside my cup?
I do not.
Cute. I love that you're a farmer, Heather.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I planted a bunch of stuff yesterday.
Good.
Have you been to Roscoe, New York, the birthplace of fly fishing in the United States?
No, I have not. You're not the first person to ask me that.
I'm sure I'm not. I wrote an article about fly fishing years ago for Hudson Valley Magazine, and all of them have really cool like names, like old-timey Simpsons-y names. I can't remember any of them, but if you go and look, they all have like really cool nickname kind of things going on. It sounds very fun and interesting. So,
okay. So I just wanted to bring this up while we have Heather here. So we're losing our information, reliable information. It's not about having it be from a particular political point of view. I just, I'm having to scour to find out, is there a deadly disease on the way that's going to knock us out?
Scientific data is gone.
Exactly.
So we need to figure out. We know we still have the World Health Organization.
We do. And so there is, but there is. Guys, there's a horrible disease happening in Congo right now that is beyond what anybody has seen in terms. It's not in Ebola. It's not in the meningitis.
It's highly contagious.
Highly contagious, and it's literally causing you to. It's that movie Contagion. It's you're bleeding. You're dead in 48 hours. You get
a great movie though. Really good.
And you're dead. You're just your brain dissolves and you bleed out everywhere.
Yeah.
And what the?
It's going to keep coming. The viruses are going to keep coming. We're overpopulated.
Yeah. So
we used to talk about that.
we need to talk about that. What about our food? You grow, you have your own, you doing your food. You have a farm.
I have my own.
I've got
food,
farmers
I have
around
my
us.
own aquifer.
Awesome.
No, but you just need
We're
DoorDash.
okay.
Just download DoorDash, the DoorDash app, and you'll be totally fine.
Oh my
I
God.
love DoorDash.
But what about, I'm just so worried about America. Like, we're not going to know if our food is even rancid. There's no FDA now. There's no inspectors, food
Grow
inspectors.
your own, man. Grow your own and buy from local ranches that can guarantee.
This is where we're at. I mean, this is the prep mode for what's coming, because it's not a surprise. So what do you find?
We can grow a lot of our food indoors. First of all, we can grow our own food. And there are wonderful, wonderful companies that are popping up there's this place in Jacksonville, Wyoming. And I'm trying to remember what it's called. It's called like Mountain Greens or something. And they have a 3-story building. It's all glass in front. And all you see is their conveyor belts of plants under grow light. They're on these giant conveyor belts. And everybody gets their greens from there in the wintertime. We need to rethink how we grow. We need to grow local. I would love to teach small space gardening.
I would love for you to teach small space gardening. I feel like that's a YouTube show for you that you should start.
Yeah, it's a good YouTube show.
And that would be amazing.
Gardening. I think if you have 4 pots, you can grow all your greens for a year in them.
Wow.
Yeah. Nice.
Okay.
Okay.
That's good, because I feel like I'm not cut out for this. I'm not. Like, once the Wi-Fi's done, once the Wi-Fi stops working, I'm out. I'm just done. I'm not gonna be one of the. Although my wife has been like buying all this survivalist stuff, unbeknownst to me. Probably we have some sort of solar generator in the garage.
For like 30 years. I have a bunker on our property. It's an old property, and there was a bunker. There were 2 bunkers for World War II.
Oh, wow.
And so I have a bunker, and in that bunker, I keep all sorts of stuff like, earthquake supplies.
Yeah.
For a full medical thing and drugs and everybody's medicines. We update it all the time. And
so I know where we're all going. We're all coming to your place.
I would be raising sheep right now if I could.
The problem is, though, but upstate
I've got
New York,
the eggs, I've got the protein, I've got a full citrus orchard, avocados.
Nice. What were you saying, Greg? Upstate New York?
No, it's for climate change. It's good. We have water. We have green. We're relatively insulated from natural disasters. My friend at work is
100-mile-an-hour winds come. You're relatively insulated.
That you can't do anything about.
Can't do anything about.
My friend is an earth scientist, and he was like, "I'm living here because of this." And I'm like, "Okay,
yeah, I'm living where I live because of this. We're supposed to go more tropical, like Ecuador. I could do that.
You could do that. You could do mangoes.
I could do that. I'm a beach lizard. I could do it.
Nick.
Well, you're making drinks with blood oranges. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
This is where it's at.
We grow our own.
I need it to be like 70 degrees all the time, or I don't like it. That's my problem. I don't like cold or hot. So I'm not going to survive well in this brave new world. It's not going to be good for me.
Yeah. Survival in the Yarvin verse. Maybe I'll write a book.
There you go.
Yarvin wants to have a monarchy because he thinks that monarchs and have the best interests of the state at heart because their interests overlap the interests of the state. And it's just not true. Speaking of which, I forgot to mention this before.
Oh, yes, go ahead. I just want you to say who Yarvin is real quick. Just real quick for the...
Curtis Yarvin is the intellectual godfather of the Dark Enlightenment movement, the NRX neo-reactionary movement. He's the intellectual.
He's Peter Thiel's house philosopher.
There you go. But he is a very good writer, and he is persuasive. He is just wrong,
Right. Okay.
So, Yeah, he thinks these things about monarchies, and he's just wrong. But
I played too many video games, and that's this fantasy about how the world should be.
He is.
And every time they try and make it, it falls on its face. It's a stupid idea.
Nobody that has hair that bad should be in charge of anything, is my thinking. But here's the thing, okay? King Charles, via Keir Starmer, invited Trump to something, right? To go visit the whatever the fuck.
I think he should rescind that.
Speaking of the Epstein files, I mean, Prince Andrew is all over the fucking that's like a reunion. That's not like an unprecedented thing. It's a fucking Epstein reunion. And I just want to get that out.
Someone sent me the most evil meme. It was, the classic one of Jack Ruby shooting Oswald.
Yeah.
It has Ghislaine in the Oswald position, and you just see the back of the Queen. When that came.
Well, I'm Irish American, so I love that.
I almost posted it, but it was just too evil.
A little too dark.
A little too dark.
Too diabolical.
Little too diabolical.
All right,
All
we
right.
have to do.
Now the Queen's is gone anyway.
We have to do our announcements now.
Yeah.
It's announcement time.
Heather, what announcements do you have? Because you've got stuff going on. Tell us about
don't get purged.org. Check your voter registration. It tells you who to contact if you've been wrongfully purged within 30 days. It tells you, it gives you all the secretaries of state. You can link to their pages. But basically, voters need to know. If it's within 30 days, check your calendar. Go to Ballotpedia. Check your calendar of if there's an election coming up in your town. Ballotpedia has every city, every little teeny tiny election. They list it. And then check your voter registration regularly.
Love it.
Okay. And what's the LA Cafe? Tell us about the LA Cafe. What is that?
LA Cafe is when we had a lot of funders, a lot of people with foundations, groups that, big unions that had funds. They would come. We would get them together with activists, Los Angeles activists, and activists would come from all over the country.
Nice.
And then we'd have baby grassroots present. Move On. Early started in my living room. Early.
Oh, wow.
Critical funding we provided for Crew, which is a funny story.
Let's hear that story.
Well, okay. At the time, Gail Zappa, rest her soul, was there, part of the LA Cafe, and Crew. Melanie Sloan presented with Crew, and they needed early funding. This is when Nancy Pelosi hadn't taken the class yet, and she was still kind of all over the place, and they had the worst slogans ever known, and the Democrats were a mess, and also 9/11 had happened, so everybody was faking like they were conservative, and there were tumbleweeds blowing through Barbara Boxer's and Henry Waxman's office, and bats flying around, and what happened was a bunch of these former federal prosecutors said, these guys are committing giant ethics violations, and they don't have an ethics committee, in Congress. It sounds so quaint now. They would go golfing in Scotland. But anyway, so they needed money. So Gail Zappa comes to me and says, I can get them $1 million. And I said, oh, really? From who? And she said, Larry Flint.
Yes.
Because at the time, Larry Flint hated George Bush, and he hated what had been done to Clinton. And he thought it was nobody's business what people do with their sex life. And it had been up until Clinton. And so he was willing to give $1 million, away to anybody that would out Republicans. So I didn't tell Melanie who we were having lunch with at the Four Seasons. And I remember Larry Flint comes in his wheelchair like Jabba the Hutt, and her eyes got really big, and I just grabbed her seat. I said, "Take the fucking money. You take the fun. Don't you dare move." I was screaming at her, and they took the money, and they were able to bring it by bringing it by suing and bringing it to light. They finally ended up with Foster. They brought Republican after Republican after Republican, and Nancy Pelosi could finally say culture of corruption. And that's when she became the first woman Speaker of the House. And God, I miss her being in that position. I miss her being in that position.
Yeah.
You don't like Mike Johnson?
He's a fake Christian weirdo. Where's his son? Where's his adopted son?
Son.
I want to know.
You got to do the scare quotes, because that's not what that is.
He's in bed with look up American ethane. He's in bed with 20 Russians too.
Yeah.
They're all in business with the Russians. They have been since Trump won.
Yeah.
Are we sure he's not AI? Because I'm pretty sure he's AI.
Administration.
I think he's AI. I don't think he's
all right. So what about LA Salon? Are we having that?
LA Cafe.
LA Cafe. I'm so sorry.
We will be having it very soon.
Okay, good.
All right.
Let
us know.
I'll put out the bat signal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And we'll hook you up. So, Heather Thomas, it was so great to meet you and hang out with you, and we're very grateful to you for everything that you've done.
I'm happy to be here.
I'm so happy to have you.
It was fun drinking with you.
Yeah.
And I'm dry. I don't.
My tea's gone.
I need a new one too. I'll go get refills after this.
It's watered down, but that's okay.
Kind of a day.
It is that kind of a day.
The most disgraceful. I think that's the most disgraceful thing I've ever seen happen. And
it's absolutely the most disgraceful thing in my lifetime.
The
absolutely.
Most traitorous.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question. Yeah, no question.
Cyber
No
command.
question.
Yeah. It's
Anyway,
shameful.
Heather Thomas, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Come
for
back
coming,
again
Heather.
soon, and have a good weekend.
Coolest chick ever.
She's
love it.
awesome. That was great.
She's so great.
That was great.
Love it.
I did not think we would be talking about Alphabet versus the Goddess and Leonard Shlain. Have you ever read that book?
I haven't read that book. So
you need to read the book now.
I need to read the book.
Like when we're done with this.
Yeah.
Just go buy it and read it.
I just love a sexy blonde who's smart as shit. That's what I love. Makes me happy.
Am I supposed to rebut that?
No.
Okay, because I'm not going to.
It's
not going to happen.
Makes me happy.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have an announcement.
Okay. What's our announcement?
Our announcement is we're going to have as we've said to everybody, we have a little live event coming up on Sunday.
We do, which we have a poster for.
Which we have a poster for.
A backdrop.
See, now I can see that a little bit better.
If I go buy it.
If you go buy it, it unblurs. Okay.
And then you can see my Gulf of Mexico shirt. Which
I do like that
shouldn't be
shirt.
political, but it's political for some reason because we're living in an idiotic timeline. and that's what's happening.
Oh God, a fucking body of water is political. Okay, so we're going to be together in person.
We are.
We're going to live stream it on our YouTube channel. So if you can't be, it'll be up here in Saranac Lake, New York. If you go to Adirondack Voters for Change, you'll find all the details if you happen to be in the area. I think a couple people might be coming down for it. There is it's this weird in-between weekend. There we go. 2025. Yep. And it's on Broadway, and they'll have the address in there. And Adirondack Voters for Change, you can look for the
Broadway
address.
and Saranac Lake, not Broadway.
Broadway and Saranac Lake, not Broadway in New York. Broadway and Saranac Lake. But it's also, if we're thinking about coming up and you didn't know, I just was checking the hotel room prices, and I got to tell you, in Lake Placid, there's a Hampton Inn. Boy, they should give me something for this. And it looks like a lodge, a ski lodge. It's a gorgeous.
That is a nice place.
I think it's the nicest one in the country. It's a very, very nice place. And their rates are like $112 for Sunday night, like $120, depending on. So, and they do have rooms because this is a weird weekend up here. We're before the spring break, but we still have all the snow. So if you like to ski, you like the winter sports, you can come for all of that. But pretty soon, all the hotel rates are going to go through the roof. So there we go. Adirondacks Voters for Change. ADK. So that's Adirondack. That's short for Adirondack Voters for Change.org. And it's Greg and I and the head of New York Indivisible.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sarah Peace, head of Indivisible New York.
New York. And so we'll be talking there. We'll be talking. It'll be cool.
And I think what we're gonna try to broadcast as an after hours. It's gonna be like a members only broadcast, assuming we can get it to work.
So assuming we can get it to work. Yeah. We're gonna shoot for that. So we don't want anybody spending any money today.
They're allowed to spend money today because
don't spend money today to become a member.
Yeah.
But know that you can become a member if you're not a member already. As soon as we get to midnight, just go ahead and on this YouTube page, it'll say join. There's a little join thing. There's a subscribe and a join. You want to hit subscribe. You want to hit like. You want to do that so you get all the alerts. But then if you hit join, we have very low membership tiers and you can join. And then you'll be able to watch this live stream. And we also do other kinds of things for our members only. So we'd love to have you in that members only group so you can see that. So that's the announcement of what's going on Sunday. And last week, I just want to tell people about this. Greg, you had a thing at the Ukrainian Institute or the Ukrainian.
They gave me this lovely button, which is like the Ukraine.
Oh, that's a perfect button for today.
Yeah. Ukrainian Institute of America, which is in this lovely mansion right off Central Park on the Upper East Side on East 79th Street. So very classy place. Much I felt very out of, but lovely people, great organization. Alexander Vindman, as we know, great hero to democracy, stood up to Trump at the time of like the first impeachment. He's the one who said right matters here, right? So he wrote a new book that's called The Folly of Realism. Realism meaning realpolitik, like the geopolitical theory of realism, not like, art history or something. Yeah. But so they asked me to moderate and interview him. So that's what I did. I went down on Monday night and we had the book launch and I asked him a bunch of questions and it went really well. We had a nice turnout and the video of that, which is very well done, I have to say, because I had nothing whatsoever to do with it. The video of that is available on this very 5'8" YouTube channel. You can go look at our video section and there it will be. So nice. It was good. It was good. And somebody in the Q&A name checked you. Yeah. They were asking questions. They were like, well, I listened to that and Greg and you and LB. And I'm like, okay. That's
good.
Where we are.
I'm glad.
So anyway, that was a lot of fun. I had a great time. They had I had a sign up on the fence in front of the building. My face was all big. It's
nice to have a sign up on the front of a building in the Upper East Side. That works in front of that beautiful building.
It ain't a shitty neighborhood.
It ain't a shitty neighborhood.
It's not a dump. So anyway, that was fun.
So that was fun. Anything else going on?
Everybody came. Is anything else going on?
I think that might be it.
Democracy's ending. No, that's it. Just that.
All right. So let's careen into our final segment.
Okay. What did we decide to call it? I can't remember. I think it's Better Things. These are all like variations of Kinks songs, by the way. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know that. I should have known that, but I didn't.
I don't know. Dedicated Followers of Fascism is funny if you know that song. If you don't, then it's not. So yeah, I was thinking about, and we were going to talk about this anyway, like who are we? Right? As Americans, as a nation, who are we? Yeah. And when this thing happened today in the Oval Office, when Trump and Vance both behaved abominably, just rude, stupid, dumb, bullying,
ignorant,
just all of it. Every negative adjective you could think of. So people were writing me, texting me, calling me, whatever. I feel like this is going to penetrate on some level. I feel like
Oh,
this is a
okay.
new. He crossed a line today, and the line, and I was thinking about like why now, why this when there's been so much evidence, and I think that the reason is when we see that behavior by the fucking president of the United States
Mm,
in the goddamn Oval Office,
mm.
we know instinctually that is not what we are. It's not who we are. It's not what America is. It's not what we represent. It's not anything.
Oh,
It's just
somebody, one of our dear friends, just texted us an image. Who's watching front page of the Daily Mail?
a spectacle
To
to
horrify the world.
Yeah.
Here,
This
I'll
is
hold
a
up.
this is a big fucking deal what happened today, okay? And I think people are viscerally repulsed by it because
Yeah.
they don't want to be associated with these fucking idiots. Trump in that meeting was half asleep, and when he woke up, acted like he had no fucking idea what he was talking about and just was yelling and rude. Zelenskyy, what's English is what his third language, but he speaks it better than fucking Trump does, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Is very patiently, calmly explaining we signed the ceasefire with Putin.
He violated it
He
over
violated
and over
it.
again.
We're
Yeah.
not doing this. He needs to just do the ceasefire that he already signed.
Yeah.
And they kept like, talking over him and all these things. People watch that and they know. Now, the idiot, people on Fox News, can I say something gross? Can I say a gross word? I can't. My mom
I
watches
can,
this. My
but
mom
you
watches this.
don't you do it.
No,
Yeah.
no. Guzzler of something on Fox News. That's all that it is.
That's
You
really
can
bad.
use your imagination. And they're like, this is Trump being man, real, like a gorilla man or some fucking shit. People know that it's not. They know, everybody knows that what we saw today was abhorrent and un-American. It's not who we are.
No,
And that's the key. It's like, it's not who we
it's
are.
not who we are. I want to say one little side note of it. I do feel like it felt like a moment of a turning point.
Yes,
It really,
absolutely.
really did. Now,
Yeah.
it may not be a turning point for Americans to somehow go, no, we got to get rid of this, da, 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 or this isn't who we are. And we'll talk a little bit about that. It could very well be that it's just one of those big pivotal turning points for everybody else, for all of our allies to realize, you know what? We're not going to be that.
Nope.
We're going to come together, and we're going to come together around Ukraine. Somebody posted, Canada, there's a hell of a mineral deal on the table for Canada if they know what they're doing, right? Like, and that's true. This Zelenskyy was in there ready to sign that. All he wanted in return was security. He wanted security for his people, and because that was, and Trump's willing to do any deal with any Russian or any oligarch or any gangster, quite frankly, a global sex trafficker, even, where he'll give them everything and get nothing in return and say, that was genius of me, right? Aren't I? He's very used to one-sided, just give it all away, get nothing in return, and call it a win for some reason, right?
Mhm.
Because maybe he's still breathing and these
Roy
gangsters
Cohn?
are taking him out. Exactly. So Zelensky's not going to do that. He's a stronger, tougher leader than that. He's not going to just give all of his country's resources away to some thug without getting the security he needs for his people in return. He's willing to do a deal, but he's going to get what he needs. And so he just kept saying that we need security. Happy to do this, but we need security in return. So someone's going to offer him that deal. They are. And I think that might be the silver lining. I can't imagine that Europe would step away from that.
No, in fact, the leaders of Europe are pretty much in alignment and all immediately issued statements and tweeted out support.
Yes, they did.
Almost everybody, to a man and
did.
woman. So except for Orban, who's, speaking of guzzling, just Semyon Mogilevich's grocery clerk, cigarette holder,
Bagman.
right? Yeah, bagman. Yeah, this guy is not even a real guy.
Yeah. All right. So back to who we are.
Who we are. Yeah.
We had another friend of ours say today, bring up a great word. He's like, America, who are we as Americans? Who are we? What are we? And she said, we're resilient.
Mm-hmm.
And both you and I went, oh, we are resilient.
We grow crops in 3 pots in our living room. I mean, I don't, but people do that are American.
We're resilient. We're at being a nation of immigrants, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the folks that got thrown out, centuries ago, they just, my people, my ancestors, thrown out.
And people that were brought here against their will.
Yeah, people brought here against their will. And we made the greatest nation of the world out of that.
Yep.
The greatest democracy anyone's ever known. We're resilient. So we wanted to leave you guys on an up note, and on that up note of remember who we are. And I do think, Heather's like, where are the leaders? Where are the leaders? We're not seeing. Let's go ahead and be leaders for one another. We need to start putting the language together out there that allows Americans to unite, because there's not a leader that's going to step up and do it for us. We need to come up with our own language for ourselves that resonates and has us looking to our neighbors, right, as fellow man instead of, the adversary. And I think that thought of resilience, that we're a resilient people, right? We're going to get through this.